Alright, for this topic I'm gonna need a weapon. Ah yes, this will do nicely. Wait, I wasn't gonna hurt anyone, I swear! Weapons come in all shapes and sizes. You got lances for mid-range poking, clubs for sheer power, bows for sticking at long range, and so many others. But the weapon that's as simple as it is pure is the sword. No frills, no nonsense, swords are very straightforward in their use. They cut things, both objects and enemies. So many characters in video games use this dignified weapon, and now I'm going to talk about the 10 that slice and dice the best. Bear in mind, there were so many sword users I considered for this list, and narrowing it down to just 10 was not easy. So if your favorite sword user isn't on here, I'm sorry, the competition is just that good. With all that said, I say it's time to strike this topic down. Let's roll! Like I said, there were a ton of sword users I considered for this list. The fact that the sword is such a simple and universal weapon means I had no shortage of candidates. That did unfortunately mean I had to leave off some characters I'd have loved to talk about. That said, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about arguably the most famous swordsman in all of gaming. When the topic of sword users in gaming pops up, it's rather inevitable that Link is one of the first characters people immediately think of. After all, he was one of the first definitive characters in gaming to use a sword, and he's been swinging around with the best of them for over 35 years. Across dozens of games and incarnations of the swordsman, they all carry the spirit of a hero and a drive to defeat evil. And most of the time, his sword of choice is the legendary Master Sword, the Blade of Evil's Bane. As for which incarnation of Link is my favorite, I have to go with Wind Waker's interpretation of the character. He definitely felt the most relatable and expressive, and while he's not the absolute best swordsman of the group, he's still more than capable. We're sure to see even more Link for years to come, and continue to see why he's such a great swordsman. And if he's only starting this list, then you know we have a ton of amazing characters to come. You remember in my mages list how I mentioned that the Fire Emblem series has a ton of mages? Yeah, they have nothing on the sheer abundance of characters that take up the sword. Most lords in the series, a ton of units in the army of the game, and several antagonists in each game all wield a sword in some capacity. It was really difficult to narrow it down to just one, but in the end, I decided to go with the one that makes me smile. Soleil hails from Fire Emblem Fates as Laszlo's daughter. While growing up in the Deep Realms, she becomes an accomplished mercenary just like her old man, and even amassed a crew of allies to help her fight. And really, it's hard to not be positive around Soleil. She's rarely seen without a smile and is just so full of charisma. It's said that her crew is all smiles, and it's really no wonder with Soleil leading them. When it comes to capabilities with a sword, she is excellent. With a great growth rate and strength and solid growth everywhere else, she's quite the well-rounded unit on the battlefield. From my experience playing Fates, she was always one of the most reliable units in my army because there was never a time where she had a bad matchup. I just adore Soleil. She's definitely one of my top picks for favorite Fire Emblem character, and when she's going ham on the battlefield, I can't help but smile along with her.
Smile, you're dead.
The sword is an elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
That right there sums up Genji in a nutshell. As a ninja of the Shimada clan, Genji trained hard at a young age, and he enjoyed his time learning the sword and role climbing. Of course, no good thing lasts forever. Once Genji's father was killed, his brother Hanzo demanded Genji step up to the plate, which Genji outright refused. After a fierce battle, Genji is near dead, but is saved by Overwatch, who give him a cybernetic body to save his life. I could go into more about his backstory, but that would take a bit too long, and I am not the Green Scorpion. So I'll move on to his capabilities as a swordsman. Sure, his primary fire uses shurikens and not a sword, but that's the only part of his kit that doesn't. His melee attack, dash, deflect, and ultimate all take advantage of a blade. The dash covers a good distance and does a clean 50 damage, and if a kill is secured, the cooldown immediately resets. This makes it both a great mobility tool and a phenomenal finisher. Deflect does exactly what you'd expect. It can send projectiles back at your enemies and even negate melee attacks. Depending on what you reflect, you can easily make your enemies regret their choices. And then there's his ultimate, the Dragon Blade. For 6 seconds, Genji gains a speed boost and swings his sword for big damage. This may not seem like much, but any Overwatch player knows to respect and fear the prospect of a well-timed Dragon Blade, as it can turn an entire enemy team into sushi. While not quite in my upper echelon of Overwatch heroes, I still really enjoy playing as Genji, and his capabilities as a sword user are quite remarkable. He is truly a no-nonsense ninja. A lot of different characters take up the mantle of sword user. Standard knights, traveling mercenaries, even just a regular person looking to protect themselves or their loved ones. But how about a goddess? Unfortunately, there's a game with just that. And now I get to talk about the adorable being that is Neptune. Neptune appears to be a cute, unassuming girl at first glance, but in actuality, she is Purple Heart, one of the goddesses of game industry. In the beginning of the first game, she falls from the sky and wakes up with amnesia. However, instead of worrying about it, she just laughs it off. She's so fascinated with the world around her as she experiences everything for the first time, and it's just the most precious thing ever. Of course, when her memories of being Purple Heart come back, she eventually assumes her role again. However, that childish demeanor sticks with her as Neptune, and I wouldn't have it any other way. In battle, Neptune's pretty much the default party member, a definite jack of all trades. Her offense is her bread and butter, and she can do a ton of damage during combos in both her normal form and her HDD form. When the time comes, she can unleash powerful EXE drive attacks by herself or with an ally by her side. Whenever I play a Neptunia game, she's always front and center and never once let me down. This adorable Nep ain't stopping for no one. Sometimes, a sword user is more than just a sword user. There are occasionally sword users that brandish more versatility by mixing swords with magic. I'm referring to the archetype of spell swords. For how uncommon they are, I've always adored them as they can change up their approach when needed, and lighting the way into the number 6 spot is Sora. As an island boy, Sora grew up with his best friends and always had a cheerful attitude, but when darkness consumed his home and he was separated from his friends, he needed to fight his way to find them. It was then that he was chosen by the Keyblade in order to fight the Heartless, and subsequently a bunch of other evil entities, but that's beside the point. But no matter how high the stakes are or what kind of forces he's fighting, Sora always maintains his fierce determination as well as his drive to protect his friends. Sora has always been a personal favorite character of mine, and his fighting capabilities just add to his credibility. Sora's quite the exceptional swordsman, as his speed and acrobatics really aid in his fighting style. He can charge right into enemies, go for sick aerial combos, and even dash all over the environment to slam enemies from every single angle at once. And that's just the physical end of the spectrum. He's also adept with magic. Using elements like fire, ice, and lightning, he can adjust his approach on the fly, or even combine sword with spell for even stronger attacks. The Kingdom Hearts series always has some of my absolute favorite combat systems in any game, and when you add just how lovable Sora is as a character, it was easy to put him on this list. Keep shining bright, Sora. Considering my adoration for the Persona series, I knew I wanted to include someone on here from there. The tricky part was then trying to figure out which one is my favorite. I recently played through Persona 3 for the first time, and Mizuru was definitely a strong candidate. However, she's no Yusuke. Yusuke Kitagawa is someone who is driven by art. For most of his life, he wanted to capture his feelings and surroundings in art form. His raw talent draws the eye of Madarame, who offers to take him in after he lost his mother. Living with Madarame was clearly not easy, as he had to put up with the ridicule and rumors surrounding Madarame. Despite that, he remained devoted to his master. However, Madarame simply hoped to use Yusuke's skills to turn a profit, and when that truth was laid out before him, Yusuke awakened to his persona, Goemon, and joined the Phantom Thieves to defeat the poser who used him. Even after leaving Madarame for good, Yusuke's devotion to his art remains strong. Throughout his confidant, you see him working to improve himself and capture abstract concepts like the human heart. Sure, he's kinda dense, but that's just what makes Yusuke, Yusuke. When it comes time to fight, Yusuke demonstrates that swordplay can be an art form too. His focus is his high agility stat, and on top of some ice attacks, he can also buff agility for himself and allies. But his bread and butter are his sword attacks, which given his high speed, connect with the utmost ease, leading to big damage. And when given a chance for a follow-up attack, he can just straight up instant kill an enemy in stunning fashion. Between his skills with both a brush and a sword, Yusuke is a prime exhibit on how deep a sword user can truly be. Like a lot of RPG series, the Tales series has a healthy number of sword users, and picking just one was a tricky endeavor. Yuri was a strong contender, Lloyd is just straight up iconic, Mila is one of the most versatile sword fighters ever. It was tricky for sure. But in the end, the first one to me is still my favorite. Luke Fonfambra is honestly a pretty interesting case study when it comes to his character. At the start he's... okay, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this, he's awful! Luke is just completely insufferable for the beginning of the adventure because he's a haughty aristocrat that knows literally nothing of the outside world. He's spoiled, asks for everything to be done for him, and is all around not pleasant to be around. So how is he on here at all? Simple. His development is almost Zuko levels of awesome. Once he realizes that his actions are causing trouble for everyone, including himself, he gives himself the reality check he sorely needs. By cutting off a piece of his hair, he tosses away the person he was and focuses on being someone new, someone great. From there on, Luke becomes a truly wonderful protagonist worthy of the Tales series, and it is just beautiful to behold. And when his capabilities on the battlefield are added to the mix, it's no wonder he made it this high. Luke has a ton of sword arts at his disposal to help with most situations, but when they're combined with Phonon Fields, he becomes a truly elite fighter. By imbuing the power of elements into his attacks, basically nothing can stop him. Tales of the Abyss was my first exposure to the Tales series, and it still remains my favorite. And Luke being Luke is a big reason why. We've seen some spectacular sword slashers so far, but my top 3 are simply sensational. And for my number 3 spot, we're looking at a swordsman who doesn't just have the skills, but a super sweet sword to use them with. Wow, that was a lot of S words! And we've got one more to boot, because I'm talking about Shulk. A resident of Colony 9 on Bionis, Shulk is a soft-spoken Homs and a brilliant engineer. He's always looking for mechanical things to tinker with, but enjoys a peaceful life. However, when the Mechon attacked his home and Dunban could no longer wield the legendary Monado, Shulk springs into action with the mighty sword and shows he is truly the chosen one. From there on, he vows to fight the Mechon and save all Homs across Bionis. During the adventure, Shulk shows a remarkable sense of compassion and heroism, but at the same time is a character one can easily relate to due to his motivation to protect everyone. This makes him easily one of my favorite characters ever. There's just so much to love about him. And when he needs to brandish the Monado, the enemy is in a world of hurt. Shulk has the fewest number of combat skills of the party, with only 8, but with a Monado, that number could potentially double, and he can swap between normal attacks and Monado attacks at any time. The Monado arts include Buster, an extremely powerful attack, Enchant, allowing allies to damage enemy Mechon, Speed to allow allies to easily dodge attacks, Shield to protect allies from harm, and some more situational attacks. Needless to say, Shulk is an extremely versatile and capable fighter. All that together easily gets him 3rd place on this list, and you know the next 2 must be truly exceptional. The Mega Man series is well known for how its main character uses a gun. That's all well and good, but I'm looking for a sword fighter! Fortunately, the X series has just that, and it's a character near and dear to all our hearts. The one, the only, Zero. What was originally Keiji Inafune's idea for what Mega Man X would be, he instead became X's most trusted partner, and the rest is history. While X is something of a pacifist, occasionally to a fault, Zero is nothing like that. Not saying that he's always trying to fight something, but he definitely takes a more active role in his job as a Maverick Hunter. Despite that, however, he's very much a team player and is the one always watching X's back. This comes to a head in X5, where Zero pulls off a heroic sacrifice to save his best buddy. Only for that to be undone because Capcom couldn't leave well enough alone. Sorry, got sidetracked. Let's get back to the awesome robot. Starting in X4, Zero became a completely unique playable character, and this may or may not be a hot take, but I slightly prefer playing as him. Sure, getting close to enemies to attack can sometimes be annoying, but he provides some of the most fun I can have in a 2D platformer. Zero's combo game and mobility are already great on their own, but when he gets new techniques from bosses he defeats, that gets amped way up! At full power, he's basically unstoppable, and it's a sight to behold. Zero is so awesome they even got his own spin-off series. The gameplay is largely similar, except Zero gets a Buster and a different weapon depending on the game. But his bread and butter is still a Z-Saber, and they are great fun. I'm sure a lot of you would expected Zero to top a list like this, but alas, my actual number 1 pick is rather special. Before moving on, how about some honorable mentions? Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, The Stranger from Fury, Wonder Blue from the Wonderful 101, Dust from Dust and Elysian Tale, and Stock from Radiant Historia. When I was making this list, I knew right out of the gate who one of my top picks would be. I tried to be fair and not automatically put him at the top spot, but the more I tried to fight it, the more I knew I couldn't. You may not know him, but Zael is truly something else. No other sword user in a game has captivated me quite like Zael has. He is truly amazing, and now I can finally talk about why that is. If you don't want to be spoiled, that's totally fine. You can stop here because more people really need to play the last story. Starting off, he didn't have the best life. His home was ravaged and destroyed, and he was left on his own. But then, he met Dagran, who took Zael under his wing into mercenary work. Over time, the two met the rest of their crew, and they all found new life. Sure, the life of a mercenary is hard, dangerous, and fraught with discrimination, but Zael kept it going because he had a dream. A dream to become a knight to be able to protect others. It's a noble dream for sure, but he would learn it wasn't all it's cracked up to be. On a mission to storm the Garak stronghold, he saw knights he idolized and aspired to be, attacking innocents. This spurred a change in Zale, and when offered to be knighted, he adamantly refused. He knew what a true knight would stand for, and Theseus claimed that inside that man beats the heart of a knight. And when he fights, he might as well be a knight. Zale not only has basic sword combos, but also quite the level of agility. He can climb walls for a moment to attack with a downward slam, or he can use his Gale attack to quickly dash over to enemies. And when used on magic circles, a variety of effects can occur. Fire breaks armor, ice causes slip, nature silences enemies, light casts shields, and dispelling heal circles heals the party. He may not be absolutely brimming with versatility, but Zale is certainly effective on the battlefield and a great load of fun to control. Zale has always been a character I have absolutely adored ever since I first played the last story. He's not only a character you can feel sympathy for, but he taught me a valuable life lesson. A dream isn't what others set out for you. A dream is what you make of it. All that together makes Zale not only my favorite sword user, but arguably my favorite character in all of gaming. I'm Arrow Dragon, and here's to more slashing and slicing! And now I sheath the sword on this topic, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. This was a tricky one for sure, but I'm really glad with how it turned out. And coming up next is a remake of a widely covered topic. Stay tuned for a top 15 favorite boss fights redone! And don't forget to follow me on Twitch to catch my super fun live streams, and come join the Discord server if you'd like. Well, until next time, this is Arrow Dragon, signing off.